Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with the 7 ontological arguments for the existence of God. Today we're going to be looking at, once again, the argument from definition, but this time we're going to be looking at some objections to this argument. Now, last time I offered the argument as follows. God is by definition a being with every perfection. Existence is a perfection, therefore God exists. In this video I'm going to look at objections to each of the 2 premises and then the conclusion. Let's take a look. So, God is by definition a being with every perfection. This seems a little problematic if you believe in the God of the Bible or the God of the Torah. If you actually read the Old Testament, it seems that God makes a lot of mistakes and isn't terribly perfect. He has to flood the earth a couple of times because he messed things up and didn't get things perfectly right. So I'm not sure that even someone who completely believes in the Bible believes that God is a being with every perfection. This isn't the most important objection here, so I'm not going to harp on it. Next up, existence is a perfection. Like I said, this is going to appear in a lot of ontological arguments, and I'll dig into it deeper in a future argument. For now, I would say existence may not always be of perfection. Which is better, a war that exists or one that does not? It seems that in terms of wars, wars are things that are better to be non-existent. They're more perfect if they don't exist. The perfect war is a war that never happened. So, it seems a little concerning. Heroes that don't really exist are more perfect than those that do, because non-existent ones can't fall from grace. Similarly, it might seem that gods that don't exist might be more perfect than ones that do, because gods that don't exist can't make mistakes, they can't mess things up, and they can't get people mad at them for the things that they do, even if they were acting completely correctly. Because they don't exist, they can't take those actions, so people can't get mad at that god. And finally, a cake that exists might actually be worse. Why? Because heart disease. Finally, the real problem with this argument is the conclusion of going to, therefore God exists, from the definitional claim. I'm going to offer a couple of arguments as to why, and then a quote from the Stanford Encyclopedia that should pretty much sum up what's going on here. So, therefore God exists. This would be similar to saying, imagine we're back in a long, long time ago, maybe before civilization, 6,000 years ago, I don't know. In this time, people believe that rainbows are the tears of sprites. Rainbows are in fact the laughter of sprites. They believe this by definition. Rainbows are just defined as the laughter of sprites. Everyone on Earth, just for whatever reason, happens to believe this, and by definition it's the case. There's a rainbow outside, therefore the sprites are laughing. Just because everyone defines rainbows in a certain way doesn't mean that that actually changes the chemical and physical processes that are going on in the world. Rainbows are still a refraction of light. They are not sprites laughing just because a definition happened. That definition can't change the world as we know it. Similarly, imagine, let's say that the Nazis won World War II and in fact took over the world. Then imagine we get some kind of North Korea-esque control of information going on. So the Supreme Commander, by definition, has all perfections. The Supreme Commander has all of these perfections by definition. Everyone believes this. They're perfectly brainwashed. They believe it. In all dictionaries under Supreme Commander, it's being with all perfections. Being immortal is a perfection. I think most people who are arguing the ontological argument would agree with that, and therefore the Supreme Commander is in fact immortal. This seems problematic, because even if he rules the world and controls the history books, he probably doesn't control his own biology and still might die of cancer. Seems to be a little problematic. Alright, if you weren't convinced by my examples, listen to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. They think we should instead conclude that therefore by definition God exists. That is a conclusion that we are allowed by our 2 premises. Here's the quote. The inference from, by definition, God is an existent being, to God exists, is patently invalid, while the inference to, by definition, God exists, is valid, but uninteresting. With that, I will close the book on the definitional argument for the existence of God. Next up is the conceptual ontological argument for the existence of God. If you have any great arguments for or against this argument, please offer them in the comments below. I will see if I can feature them in that video. And keep your eyes peeled for the following arguments on the modal, the Meinonian, the Mariological, the religious experience, and the higher order arguments for the existence of God. Watch this video and more at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.